you're joining us from. Welcome to the Global Scholarship Summit. Global Scholarship Summit is starting today and it's starting right now. We have 10 amazing speakers, 10 powerful speakers who are going to be giving us all the tips and bits to positioning ourselves for global scholarships, positioning yourself to be competitive globally. So today we're going to be starting with Dr. Emmanuel Dansu, who is going to be taking us through the heart of distilling failures to successes. Get your cards, get your writing material, get everything you need ready because this is going to be a powerful mind shifting, mind blowing session for you. And I must tell you, congratulations that you're joining this summit. All right, let's listen to the citation of our speaker.
Our speaker for today holds a PhD degree in computer and mathematical science from Tohoku University, Sendai, Japan. He is a lecturer in the Department of Mathematical Sciences, Federal University of Technology, Akure, Ondo State, Nigeria. He is passionate about helping young people use their past failures and successes as fuel for ultimate excellence. Please let's welcome Dr. Emmanuel Jesuyon Dansu.
Welcome, Dr. Emmanuel.
Thank you so much.
I can't wait to have this session with you. It's going to be awesome. So, Dr. Emmanuel, you have the floor now.
Okay. I sincerely appreciate the organizers, Chijam's Academy. I know Illumania is also involved, and other partners. I'm very grateful for this opportunity. It is so great to be here this afternoon to talk about the art of distilling failures into success. And thank you for that wonderful introduction. And I actually also appreciate the theme International Scholarship and Incentive for Enhancing Capacity for Nation building. Now, one of the most important indices in knowing how great a nation is the level of education and all that. And I think that this Global Scholarship Summit 2020 is such a great, great effort geared towards that effect in Nigeria. Now, I'm talking about failures, I'm talking about success and everything. And the interesting thing is that it looks like most of the times we get to talk about our successes more than our failures. But the issue is that most of the time, failures, they, there have been several failures before we end up succeeding. And that is why I like this word by Winston Churchill, who was the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1940 to 1945 and 1951 to 1955. And interestingly, this was the Prime Minister during I think, the Second World War. And of course, if he's talking about failure, you definitely want to listen to him. He said, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. So whether you succeed or you fail, you have to keep on keeping on, like some people would say. In fact, I like the second part the more. Success is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. It's very easy to get frustrated by failure, but this man who has the authority to talk about failure is telling us that for us to succeed, we have to be moving from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. Then the IBM chairman and CEO from 1940 to 1956. Of course, we know IBM is a very big company today. He also has this to say that if you want a formula for success, it is very simple. Just double your rate of failure, because the fact is that the more you try to do things, the more you fail, and the more you fail, the more you learn, and ultimately you achieve success. So he's telling us to double our rate of failure, not because you intentionally want to fail, but because the only people who never fail are people who don't attempt anything. So that is very instructive for us again. Now, I want to take us on this journey by sharing my personal story about scholarships. Now, I attended local authority primary school in Ajara Badagry, Lagos State. Of course, the name of that school is instructive on its own, like local Authority Primary School. So it was indeed local, but that was where we started from. Then I got to Badagry Grammar School in 1995. But 1999, 2000, I was in the senior secondary school one and later two, and I was privileged to be the assistant timekeeper. And one of the things I had to do was to distribute letters on a weekly basis. So one day as I was sharing letters, I just discovered this letter from this book perspective from the US about the Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri, USA, and that really caught my attention, and I began to look at it, that how can I actually do this? What can I do with this and everything? And because of that, I went to an uncle of mine who is a retiree of the SSS. So from there, I got the idea that I could just write a letter. It would take it to the airport and post it. Then email was not that far-reaching, so I practically didn't know anything about emails back then. That was year 2000, 2001. So, and after some findings, I desired to study aeronautical engineering at the Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Florida. USA. GRE for people who are going for undergraduate studies. That's the Scholastic Aptitude Test. So, but finally, I was scared away. $24 for SAT, $110 for TOEFL were required, and to even get naira was trouble. Not to talk of getting dollars. So, because of that, I had to should I say perish the thought for that time. But I just did in one corner of my heart that in the long run I was going to study abroad. Then 2000 to 2010, in fact, to even get admitted into a university in Nigeria was war, because I had to write JAM, UME 5 times. In fact, I even remember, yeah, I even remember taking a direct entry form once, making 6 attempts at getting into the university. So because of that, I had to relax a bit and go for a national diploma in marine engineering at the Federal College of Fisheries and Marine Technology in Victoria Island, Lagos. That was from 2003 to 2005. And shortly afterwards, finally, because post UTME was introduced, I was able to, they were able to at least interact with me directly and see that then I think I got into the university with a JAM score of 249. And, because of the post UTME, I had a better chance of interacting with the people screening so they could actually take me. So I got into Federal University of Technology, Akure in 2005 and graduated 2010. So now, all the while doing my undergraduate studies, already I didn't want to do my undergraduate studies in Nigeria, but then I ended up doing that. So while at it, I just knew that immediately after the 5 years in FUTA, I was going abroad. So because of that, when everybody was thinking about the National Youth Service Corps, I was not interested a bit, because I applied to the Paris Graduate School of Mathematical Sciences in France. And by the time I was expecting the result, I knew two things would happen. It was either I went to France or I went for youth service. But finally, the list was released. Only 10 people were selected all over the world, and it was painful. I did not make the final list, so I had to go to Katsina State in March 2011 for the National Youth Service. But of course, I was always restless. I knew I had to study abroad at some point. So one day, one thing I enjoy doing is I just go online, and any weird thoughts that came to my mind, I just Googled it and found it out. Found out into Oxford University. Interestingly, I think the application fee was I think it was £150, which I could not afford. But an idea came to my mind that, oh, I have this mentor who lives in Birmingham, and I just contacted him on Facebook. Interestingly, is this busy person, but interestingly, I sent the message and he got back to me. He said he would pay, and I was so excited. So he paid the fee. I made the application. After youth service, I went back to well, I'm in Akure right now, so I came back to Akure, and I had an interview with a panel from Oxford University's Mathematical Institute in February 2012, and these people actually rubbed it in. I did not make the list, but they sent a letter, paper letter. After sending email, that was not enough. They sent a letter just to I wish I forgot I would have brought the letter here. So I was like, oh, was it not bad enough? Just inform me that I did not make the cut, and that would have been fine. But then they sent a fine letter to inform me. So, well, that's okay. So 2012 to 2016, since the Oxford thing did not come through, so I settled for a Master of Technology program in FUTA in industrial mathematics. Then at the same shortly afterwards, I resumed as graduate assistant in the Department of Mathematical Sciences in FUTA, where I had graduated from earlier. So I completed my MTech studies in 2014. But all that while I was applying for PhD positions. In fact, there was one time I even applied for another master's. I applied for masters in Finland, and they told me because I was already completing a master's program that I was not qualified. I was like, really? And somebody actually, I was told to apply for masters so to improve my chances, right? And and I was turned down just because I was completing a master's program. So and afterwards, after applying and everything, and nothing was coming forth, I applied again for a PhD in FUTA grudgingly, because I just knew that I did not want to do my PhD. I did not even want to do first degree in FUTA, not to talk about masters. Now I've done first degree masters. So PhD, I applied grudgingly because it was required for the job for me to continue as assistant lecturer in FUTA. So all that while I made several attempts to go into universities and institutions in Austria, in Canada, in China, in Denmark, in Finland, in France, Germany, Hong Kong, Italy, Luxembourg, Malaysia, Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, Senegal, Singapore, South Africa. I'm intentionally reading out everything.
Wow.
Spain, Sweden, UK,
I've
USA.
lost count.
Those are the ones I can remember. So those are the ones I can remember. And I remember in Germany in particular, I applied several times. You know, all this there are these IMPRS institutes. At IMPRS, there are several of them. I applied to a couple of them. I remember Berlin Mathematical School. I think I applied there like 2 or 3 times. Austria, there's this international scholarship in Austria. I applied like two times. Hong Kong, 2 or 3 times. Italy, like multiple times in each of the countries. So interestingly, while at it, I got some encouragement. I got admissions with little or no funding into Loughborough University, UK, Memorial University of Newfoundland in Canada, University of Technology Malaysia. I think I applied there 2 or 3 times. University of Porto and Coimbra. I made the cut for the admission, but the funding, I think I was the last. I needed somebody to not take up the scholarship for me to be able to get the scholarship, and of course, that's difficult to come by. I also got a place in Washington State University, but funding was a problem. To make matters worse, I narrowly missed the funding opportunity at the University of Saskatchewan in Canada. 67 of us made the final list. I was number 4 on that list, and it was going to depend on the funding available in the university. So I guess of the 67, only 1 or 2 people were picked, and I was number 4. If 4 were picked, I would have made it. But then after all the troubles, I finally landed my big break with the Japanese government MEXT scholarship. And today, the rest is history. Now, the interesting thing about the MEXT scholarship is, like, when I was doing my diploma program in Victoria Island, there were times I just took a walk around Walter Carrington Street, where the American embassy and the British embassies are, or where, I don't know if they're still there. And I see how people get there like as early as 6 a.m. queuing in the rain and doing all those things. And I was like, wow, is this difficult? Is it this difficult to travel abroad? But MEC scholarship gave me a very sweet experience. We're ushered into the embassy inner rooms like VIPs. We just filled our forms. The visas just came effortlessly, the flight ticket and everything. And it was such a very wonderful experience in Japan altogether. So for our attention, I got to a point where rejections became very normal, but I made up my mind that I was going to get my PhD degree from a foreign university. So it was so serious that whenever I read an email and I just said we are we are afraid to inform you, I was like, okay, cool. I didn't make this again. Next application, please. If I remember when I was applying for the MEX scholarship, I already downloaded the DAT for scholarship form. That if MEX did not work, I was going to apply for that. And that was this. So I got to that point. Whatever it took, I was ready to give it. So no failure was ever going to discourage me. So from all that, I learned some vital lessons that every failure you experience can lead to ultimate failure if you allow it to paralyze you. Now, as a corollary to that, success can actually be a problem of ultimate success. If you succeed and you think you have arrived, then you stop succeeding. So, as in as much as failure, success can be sweet and all that, it can actually be problem for greater success. In the same way, if you fail and you let it paralyze you, then that'll be so bad. Now, whenever you fail, evaluate the circumstances to find out what went wrong and improve your game. You want to learn, like, what did you do wrong? Did you not write the essays well, or were you unqualified? Sometimes we just want to try our luck or something. Of course, if some people have high thresholds for trying things, are like, if you think you don't have anything to lose and you just apply, if it's failure, if it doesn't come well at the end of the day, then you should, and you don't have a problem with that, that's fine. And because of that, each failure should make us more resolute to achieve success. Like I said, anytime I got a bad news, and that is called a kind of love letter on some on a forum I belong to. So anytime you get that love letter, I just know that, okay, I've got this one. Next application, please. Now, when it comes to applying for scholarships, interestingly, only 1 yes is enough to nullify 1,000 no's. So, all you need is one person to take you, one country to take you, one university to take you, and all the troubles, all the pains, all the worries would be gone. And then my final word would be this. Frankly speaking, failure can be quite depressing. I remember times, that time I knew things I could do. I could actually put money together to buy a car. I could, you know, just live like a big boy, in a sense. But I knew that I got to that stage of my life sacrificing, and I knew that I had not arrived. So there was no point trying to erect a permanent tent as if I had arrived. So I was channeling. I remember there was this time I had a very terrible phone, and I had 35,000 naira to get a phone. And then that was when I applied to Finland. And one of the requirements was I had to write IELTS. I had to put that money to write IELTS. And, and at another point in time, a friend of mine gave me 12,000 naira for a phone. And interestingly, I ended up not buying the phone. It took the same friend to buy me a phone like 1 year after. When he said I wasn't buying a phone, so he had to bring me a phone as birthday gift the following year. So failure can be quite depressing. It can be quite depressing. But then Oswald Theodore, every advice is, when you fall, pick something up. You don't just want to stay down there. So, just like the quote by Watson, that I said earlier, that whenever you fail, or you just need to look around and be sure of what you are doing wrong, so that by the time you try the next time, things can get better. I think I'm too fast or something, because I have come to the end of my presentation. So maybe Fahidat may have some questions for me before we take questions from other people. I don't know.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I mean, I'm even inspired. I mean,
Thank you.
participants, honestly, I must just tell you congratulations for joining this summit, because I'm wishing I had this opportunity maybe when I was still in UI or something. I'm really, really inspired. And congratulations, Dr. Emmanuel. Congratulations
Thank
for
you.
not giving up. For
Thank
not
you.
giving up. Congratulations. So
Thank you.
all this while when you got your love letters and all, what actually kept you going, aside the fact that, oh, you wanted to study in a foreign university? You mentioned almost all the countries in the world, because that the list of countries, it was like all the countries in the world, honestly. I mean, how did you not give up? How?
Mm, well, basically, I of course, as expected, I gave up at some point. But when you look around you, and you know the kind of things, I'm this very ambitious person. Like, one of my ambitions is to become United Nations Secretary General. I have some
Wow.
very crazy thoughts that always go on
No,
in my
it's
head.
not crazy. It's not crazy at all.
So when I look around, okay, for instance, how did that United Nations Secretary General thing came up? There was this time, I think I just left secondary school. I was about leaving, and then I was in Badagry, and the closest cyber cafe was in Agbara. So it meant I had to travel like 30 minutes from Badagry to Agbara just to use a cafe. So what I did was, probably since I could only do that once in a week or probably once in a month even, I had this note that, any thought that came to my head, I just put it down. So one day I was going on the road and this thought just came like, Kofi Annan is the United Nations Secretary General. He was the Secretary General then. I'm like, this guy is African like me. He's from Ghana. Ghana is not too far. I know Ghanaians. I had a Ghanaian teacher in primary school, for instance. So what is special about this guy? So I just wrote it down that next time I get to the cafe, I'm going to find out how he did it. So I got there, I discovered Kofi Annan. I think he attended Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology or something like that. And then from there, he went to the US, probably did a master's degree in the US or so. And then he became a UN staff, and then he became UN undersecretary. And after Boutros Ghali, Africa, it was still Africa. Boutros Ghali could not go for a second time, so an African was still needed. So he was like good for the job, and he went like that. So I'm like, okay, yeah, if this guy can do this, why not? Then I looked at, for most United Nations jobs, I discovered all you need is like an MBA or a PhD. So it was settled that yes, I was going to have a PhD. And just like I said, from secondary school, I just already made up my mind I was going to study abroad, but money was the issue. I didn't want to do masters. So, it was just that drive, that ambition, and that never say die spirit. I'm not sure I'm giving a very good answer to your question,
No,
but
you are, you are.
there's this self-motivation, there's this self-drive that I have that keeps me going. I don't know if I'll become United Nations Secretary General or not, but I'm working towards it.
I can't wait for you to be one. I cannot wait. Another thing I would want to ask is, a lot of us, we have this mindset of applying to just the UK, US, Canada, and that's it. If it's not UK, US, Canada, I don't want to go to anyone. I mean, is that how it was for you too? And if it was like that, how did you now decide that, oh, okay, let me try this for the other countries?
Interestingly, okay, sorry, let me not cut you. Sorry.
No,
It's
go
like
on,
it's
go
still,
on.
okay, great. Interestingly, I started out with the US, in high school, and somehow in one corner of my heart, I did not really like the UK. I don't know why. I really do. I can't explain it. I did not like the UK, so I was just focused on the US. And in my room in Badagry Hill, and I have prospectuses of several universities. Then people were not putting so much information on websites. The internet was just like coming up. So then you went online and you sent them a request, and they sent you a prospectus. So I have several prospectuses in my room in Badagry right now. And but another thing is, by the time I was an undergraduate and I was thinking of going abroad, because I did French. I did French at O level. I did it in NECO, WAEC, and GCE. So I really, then generally I love languages. I love language. So I wanted to go to a country that would have me learn another language. So that was one of my motivations. So you could say that after secondary, after university, first degree, I applied to France because France was more like my dream country back then. I don't think it is language. So US and UK would likely not be the options. But of course, I was open to almost anything as far as I could get a world class education.
Okay. Oh. That's really great. Then I think we have a question from Lorena Michael. How long did it take you to apply for all these scholarships?
How long it took? Okay, if you're going to start from my first attempt ever, my first thought about foreign studies ever, that was in high school in the year 2000. So from 2000 till 2017, when I finally arrived in Japan, that's 17 years, right? But talking about PhD proper, that would be
Okay.
I think I started applying. Okay, I applied for masters after first degree in 2010, 2011. So I think I started applying actively for PhDs starting from 2013, 2014, let's say 2014. And I finally was able to get a place in 2017. That was like 4 years or 5 years.
Wow.
Uh, about
That
let's roughly 4 years.
4 years. 4 years.
Yes.
Wow.
And one thing I keep saying is in writing professors, I wrote GRE, which I never used. I wrote IELTS, which I ended up not using. I did well in all of those exams. So making all of those attempts, writing professors, and and for them to tell you don't have funding or something like that. I conservatively put all those attempts at 500. I know it's far more than that, but I don't want to exaggerate.
What? You put what at
Like
500?
500
All
attempts
your attempts.
minimum.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
I need to take some dose of motivation. No. I can't get over 500.
Yeah.
Oh wow, wow. That is so. No. I need to come and do a PhD study of you and your motivation. I think I need to do that. So we have another question from Olufosi Samuel. It said, study plan. How can one write a study plan for a taught course? For example, in China, study plans are mostly for research courses. How do I write for taught courses?
Oh, study plan for thought course. I'm very sure there are better people that can talk about this, but I'll make an attempt. So, because I did not do a thought course anyway, but of course, the basic idea of a study plan is to, unlike a study proposal, okay, research proposal, research plan. Oh, well, I want to assume that study is research, right? I don't know, but let me just take the word at the face value, study. So it is just basically a plan of how. But if it is a study plan for courses, I don't think the student has a lot of trouble to. So it has to be research. So for a research plan, it's basically about the research you want to do, the things you would need for that research, and probably the timeline. Like, what are you expected to do? How much time do you have? One. Then how do you break that time down into achieving the components of the research or study or whatever it is you call that. So I think just like the word plan, that's how it goes. Like, how should I go? I'm not impressed with my answer about this because I probably am
No.
not an expert in it.
Yeah. Maybe I could
Yes,
also give it a shot to,
for sure.
for taught courses. I think those are the coursework based ones. I've not really come across a taught course requirement of study plan. So
Mm,
maybe you could still, it's always good to actually speak to the graduate coordinators for things like that you're not clear on. And really, they'll be willing to answer you. So you could still send an email to the graduate coordinator, and I'm sure one of our facilitators during the summit would still answer your question. Okay,
mm,
thank
yeah.
you. We have another one from Adebayo Ibukun. This is interesting. How were you able to tame peer pressure when your peers were getting scholarships and you didn't before the time you got a PhD? Hmm.
Peer pressure. The people peer pressure. I don't know if peer pressure is the proper word to use
Yeah, it might not be
for
the
this
right
kind of
word.
thing, but
Yeah.
I get the gist. I get the gist. Yeah, really. Of course, for every normal human being, your friends. Now, this is very interesting. When I was leaving, when I was graduating in Futa in 2010, I was so resourceful that one of my friends, I think it was 2 years after me in the same department, math department. I was so resourceful. Before I left, the guy came specially to my room to ask me for guideline on how to go about scholarships in case we did not meet afterwards because it was too sure I was going to travel abroad anytime soon. So guess what? I finished youth service, got back to Futa as graduate assistant, was doing my master's there. And the guy finished his youth service and went to Italy. Then he was now the one giving me links to scholarships. It was that serious. So somebody who thought who I was giving links to before I left was now giving me links. Somebody who graduated 2 years after me, like that. But for me, I just knew that everybody has its time. There's a time. Everybody has his own time. Once in a while, I felt somehow like, oh, people are going, everybody's moving. But one thing I've discovered about my life, there are things I've seen that sometimes, most of the times, I tend to go through difficulties so I can make life easier for other people.
Thank you for that.
That's a very difficult life to live. Or I've taken my cross.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yes.
Then another question here. What is your advice for someone who is just starting to apply for scholarships and the application season is almost over? How does the person meet up and apply as fast as possible?
Well, interestingly, these days, the kind of information available on scholarships now are very serious. And the only reason why you won't get a scholarship is either because you're not qualified or you're not serious. You have all the Chijams and all the Lumania, you have Dr. Kelechi, you have everybody. So just go and meet the experts. They will guide you. With them, they save you a lot of time trying to figure out things yourself because they've been through all those things. So of course, generally speaking, you don't want to start applying for scholarships too late because maybe it's under so much pressure and you don't do things right. You need time to review your essays. You keep reading over and over again and you keep editing stuff. But beyond that, you have experts that you can always call on and you'll be fine. But it's better you know what you want, like at least a year ahead, so you can put everything together and everything will look effortless in the long run.
Yes. Thank you for that. And really, you should try to, like you said, a year ahead. A year ahead will help you, and also try to reach out to mentors. Try to. We have Dr. Emmanuel here. We have Dr. Milton. We have Dr. Kelechi. They are all here for us, really. So try to reach out to them. Try to connect with other people too. There are many scholarship groups that you can join. On the information there, it's a whole lot that could help. So another question from Olufemi Adekombi. He asked about the GRE. Please kindly share with us how you did well in GRE. I mean,
Okay.
secrets to excelling in the GRE.
Okay. Right. My GRE was interestingly. Somehow I just feel that I wonder why I ended up not going to the US because I really don't understand. I got 311 over 340 in GRE, and you know, what I can say about it is, first of all, know what it is all about. Know what it's all about. Then, if you're writing GRE, what I advise people is for you to be sure you get funding. Just go for 340. I mean, 170 over, I mean, 160 over 170 in the quantitative reasoning and 160 over 170 in verbal reasoning. Then for the analytical writing, those are the three parts. Quantitative reasoning. Quantitative reasoning is basically more like the English part where you have lexis and structure, comprehension, and things like that. So, and of course, with a lot of practice, it's very possible. So I advise people look out for 320 over 340. And with that, even I think MIT will come calling if you can get that. I think so. So
Yes,
160 over
yes,
170.
actually.
Analytical writing is over six. If you can get, is it over six? Yeah,
Yeah,
over
it's
six.
over
So if you
six.
can get like,
Yes.
you should be looking out for four upwards over six, and it should be fine.
Yes.
So know the
Yes.
structure, know what is required of you, and give it your best.
Yes. Just to add to what Doctor said, the GRE, I would say it's not a difficult exam.
Okay.
At all.
I don't want
It is not a difficult exam. You just need to plan ahead, just prepare. If it's 3 months you're going to be preparing for, if you're going to be preparing 4 hours per day, just do that. Don't try to do 10 hours reading by the weekend, every weekend. It's not going to work. So those are some of the secrets to acing the GRE. So we have another question. Would like to hear your experience about the MEXT. That's the Japan story. What was the
Yes.
entire experience like? Did you know you were going to get the scholarship, and when you did, what was the entire experience for you?
Yeah, the next, and if you say entire, I think I'll start from the beginning. There was this time a professor, I think Professor John Maida, was coming from Kyushu University in Japan. He came to Futa and he was going to talk about space technology and everything. There's this program involving 5 universities in, I think, Africa and Asia. They have this CubeSat project. So the professor came to Futa to talk about it. And though I knew it was not in line with my interest as a mathematics person, but I just felt I should go there. So I went to the hall where the event was supposed to take place. And when I got there, it hadn't started. So I felt things had changed. So I just decided to go back to my office. So on the way to my office, I saw one of my mentors, Professor Rabiu. So I saw Professor Rabiu and I just went to meet him because I know he's also into space and all that. So I told him I went to the venue for the event. Oh, and he said, oh, the facilitator had not arrived or something like that. So I followed him to the venue. Then the event started, and afterwards, Professor Rabi gave me the phone number of the Japanese embassy in Nigeria. But I felt somehow because I didn't have a basis to call them or something. I don't know. Maybe I was too timid because I have a friend. He actually got the Japanese scholarship by calling the embassy and asking them about the scholarship. He didn't even finish with the first class. But I think he had a 4 point upwards. So that, and I think that's a lesson that we should not be timid. If you have a phone number, call. The worst answer you're going to get is no, right? So I didn't call the number, but then he referred me to another person who studied in Japan. He studied in Hiroshima. That's Dr. Badijo in Futa. So I went to meet Dr. Badijo. That was my first time of meeting him. And he told me the same thing I just said today, that see, all you need is 1 year to neutralize all the negative vibes of love letters. So interestingly, he had studied in Japan and he was back in Futa. But then at that point in time, there's also another person who was in Japan at that point in time. So, and that's Dr. Adelabu. So he gave me his contact and I started interacting with him. But then, uh, looking through the MEXT form, it is both in Japanese and English. So looking at the form, I did not even know where to start, what to do. It was looking alien to me. So, but I think 1 year after, Dr. Adelabu had returned to Futa, and I had not seen him before, but I just knew his face. Probably I'd seen him around, but we had not talked one on one. So there was this that was going towards GT Bank in Futa, and I saw him talking to some people. So then I had this battle because I'm a very shy person. I know people who don't want to believe I'm shy. I'm a very shy person. I didn't know if I should just approach him or not. So as I was battling, so I just took the step. I'm like, "Good morning, sir." So then he was looking at me like probably he knew me before. I'm like, "I'm Dansu." So he just discarded those people he was speaking with straight up, and then so we started talking about MEXT. So that time I was really pursuing University of Technology Malaysia, but then I had got the admission. I was looking for funding, and he just told me, why should I think about Malaysia when that Japan is in another class? I shouldn't even bother. I shouldn't be thinking about Malaysia. So I told him that the form was looking too difficult to fill. So he told me, no, it's not difficult at all. So he brought out his own form. He actually filled it with pen. So saying that, I discovered it was so easy. So I just went ahead, filled the form too and everything. But one thing, if you're applying for MEXT, it is better you type it, because I also discovered one of the things they do is the way you fill your form is part of the points you get. So if you fill it using a computer and it's very legible, you get a higher point than somebody who just filled it with pen. So I feel that at least it made it very easy for me to see. And okay, one of the questions the person asked is, did I know I was going to get the scholarship? Well, I did not
Yeah.
know. But I just discovered everything was just working out. I applied before the deadline, and then by the time we're called, I got an email again that I should come for a test and for a screening, a test and screening. Yeah, so I went for the test on, I think, 31st July 2016, and it was all about, the test was all English and Japanese. I know when some people hear Japanese, they'll be scared. The English part is just normal comprehension, lexis and structure. The Japanese part is just nominal in the sense that it doesn't matter what your performance looks like. They just want to, it is just a test to know if you if you understood Japanese to some extent. The only thing I knew then about Japanese was maybe konnichiwa for hello and konbanwa for good night and all that. I couldn't even write any of the Japanese script. But what I did was, whatever I saw in the paper for the Japanese part, I just copied it back. I knew I was doing rubbish, and that was what I did. I couldn't really answer the questions like that because I didn't know anything in Japanese beyond the things I just talked about. So, and after the test, we're told to hang around Abuja for that day because the result of the test was going to be sent in the evening. So in the evening again, I just got this message. I think about 300 and about 400 or 450 of us applied for the MEXT scholarship in Nigeria in
In
2016. So after all the screening, based on your past performances, the way how you filled your form and all of that, 70 of us were selected for the test. So after the test, we're screened down to 18. So 18 of us were qualified for the interview. So I got the message that evening that we should come for the interview on the 1st of August 2016. So I went for the interview. So the general questions: what is your background like? What was your research about? Then why do you want to go to Japan? I remember one of the reasons I gave them. I'd done my research before going, so I just wanted to know. I'm in math and science, right? I wanted to find out how many Japanese people won Nobel prizes. So as at that time, 24 Japanese people had Nobel. There were 24 Japanese Nobel Prize winners, and in mathematics, the highest prize is the Fields Medal Prize. So as at then, 3 Japanese people had that. So I gave them that as a point that a country of 24 Nobel Prize winners and 3 Field Medal Prize winners. I'm a mathematician. I definitely want to have a first-hand experience of that kind of place. So at the end of it all, the good news later came. I got a very supportive supervisor, and the experience in Japan was so sweet. By the time I was done with the program, now the style my professor used looked like child's play, but it was quite effective, and I think I want to adopt that style in supervising my future students. So when we started working together, I just asked him, when do you want me to resume and when do you want me to close? Because when I'm starting a relationship with someone, like maybe we are partners in a business or something, I want to find out what are your rules. So he just told me, "Oh, no worries. You don't have to resume and close anytime. Whenever we have meeting, just show up. I don't need to. You don't have to be around beyond our meeting times. Anytime we have to, just show." So, and we're meeting at least once a week, one on one. Apart from other lab activities involving other students, and because of that, the progress of my work was so like. I remember one of my friends was asking me at some point that he was asking me how far I had gone with my program. I'm like, okay, the program is a 3-year program. I have spent 2 years, and I can assure you that I've gone 67% into it because of the weekly meeting with the professor and all that. Then there's a whole lot of support, that you get and all that. So I would say that the Japanese experience was excellent, excellent. Yes, and then
I want to ask. Okay, please go on. Please go on.
oh, sorry. Then I also like the fact that I did not have to do coursework. Of course, maybe coursework has advantages in North America, but I went straight to the research and that was it. So I think that made it so sweet. So if you enter it, you're sure you're 3 years you're graduating.
Mm. So is it
Most times,
possible for someone going from bachelor's to do a next PhD straight
yes, yes.
without doing a master's?
Now the whole idea of MEXT is, they just call it, MEXT is in two parts. There's undergraduate and postgraduate. So if you go with a first degree, then you go there are 3 options: student and PhD student. For most people, the first thing you want to be is a research student, because when you get there, for instance, for the first 6 months I studied Japanese. So while studying Japanese for 6 months, my status was research student. So after that, then you could advance to MSc or PhD. So because I already had MSc, I went for PhD straight. So you move from being a research student to a PhD student. But if I just had first degree, I would have moved to masters. Then based on my performance with my professor and everything, I could move to PhD. But I think these days, because of funding issues and all that, I think most of the time they prefer to take people that are going for PhD straight to cut cost or something like that. But usually it is MSc, PhD.
Okay.
Yes,
And aside academics,
yes.
what was it like? A new environment, cultural change, different people. You don't have your Nigerians around. The food is different. What was that experience? How did you adapt?
Okay. Yeah, I've always been this person that is not just about academics. Of course, for instance, I know with a UN ambition, I have to do some development thing. So I've always been this academic and development person. So because of that, I was part of the Tohoku University Foreign Students Association. I was their social manager. I was part of TEDx Tohoku University. I was the curator for a salon, a math salon we had. Then I was also general secretary of the African Association of Miyagi. Now, so through the platform of the African Association of Miyagi, we all Africans in my city, Sendai, well, in fact, in the whole of Tohoku region. Tohoku region is one of the regions in Japan with 6 prefectures. Prefectures are like states. So we had any African around in any of those prefectures. We always met together. In fact, we had this annual seminar where we sell Africa to Japanese people and all that. So getting involved in those activities was quite cool. Then we had, for instance, I had a Futarian, the person I told you about, who was already there before me.
Okay.
So he was able
Yeah.
to put me through things.
Oh.
And using the platform of the African Association, we always welcomed new people and showed them around, told them how to do things, where to buy stuff, then give them things they might need if you could afford to give them and things like that. So it was an easy landing. Then the Japanese people are extremely nice. We have this group of people called the Mori group. They were retirees, men and women in their 60s and 70s. So they were the only they sold out themselves to help foreign students to settle down, for instance, because of the language challenges and everything. So they were always there to take us to the ward office where we would enroll for that we have arrived at, where we get our resident certificate and all. Anytime we had to do things, we have supports like that. Even the city itself, they have an international center where you could go for translation issues and everything. Then, yes, there are also individuals. For instance, I have a Japanese mother now. So automatically my kids have Japanese grandmother. So there are people like that who just say, in fact, there's this woman, once you're an African person, she's automatically your mother as far as you have her time. They're always there to take you out, show you around and everything. Then we also had home visit. What is it called now? I think it's homestay. Yeah, there's this thing called homestay. So I remember in our homestay, surrounding cities around, some of them are not big cities, maybe some of them are even towns. So they send requests that they want to interact with international students. So I remember my family and I went to this place called Rifu, very close to Sendai City where we were. So until tomorrow, anytime we're in Japan, they are more like family to us. So we went there, stayed 1 or 2. I think we stayed for a night. So went out for what was that again? And a golf event and things like that. We went to their stadium. We just went on different activities like so. There are all those events to give people to help foreigners to settle down.
Wow. That's
Their
really
food,
nice.
their
Oh yeah,
food,
the food.
food. As a Badagry boy, of course, I like seafood, anything from water, and I think Japan is one of the most outstanding countries when you're talking about seafood. All the crabs, shrimp, octopus. Yeah, like I enjoy those delicacies. Seriously, yes,
That's really nice. That's really
yeah,
nice. I know we've talked about bachelor's to PhD, but someone is still asking, would you advise a student to go for straight PhD from bachelor's or to go for
yes.
master's before PhD?
Now, I always tell people if you are going to America in particular, the best time to go is after your first degree, because I don't know, America just feels that if you don't do their masters, you don't know anything. So whether you go after first degree or after masters, most of the time you still spend the
Five
same
years.
5 years. So if you can go after first degree, why not? I think the best time to go to America in particular is after first degree. Then of course it's also, for instance, somebody like Dr. Macaulay. It's such a very sweet thing that he did his master's and PhD in the UK. That's a very wonderful experience. If you can have that experience, why not?
That's great. Another question is second class upper the lowest for MEXT?
Second class upper. Yes, I think so because I don't think I've seen any. In fact, it's not just second class upper. I always recommend that you should at 4.3 upwards. 4.3
Okay.
upwards. Yes. Anything less than that, it's maybe you may want to try your luck, but if you want to really be sure, even first class, some first class you don't get, not stock of somebody who has something lower. Well, I've definitely seen people with 2-1, with 4 points who got it. So it's very possible.
And still, it's always good to try, really, because
Yes, yes.
it's always good
So
to try.
yes,
So,
yes.
someone was asking about the handwriting you mentioned before. For someone with a good handwriting, Can one fill MEXT form with pen and expect the high score?
Well, I think there's just this general bias. There's this general assumption that once you type it, it's more clear. Is it clearer? Yeah, it's more legible. So why you want to type it? Computer is very easy these days. So why do you want to
Yeah,
stress
yeah.
yourself?
Tech has made everything easy. Even from your
Yes,
smartphone, there are so many apps.
exactly,
You can even
exactly,
sign documents from your phone now.
for sure. So why worry about writing with your hand?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So someone said, does it mean that the next scholarship will give the winner both an MSc and a PhD? I think it was when we are talking about MSc, PhD. If you go
Yes.
directly for a PhD, will you have the two certificates?
Now in Japan, there's nothing like straight PhD. It is MSc and PhD. So of course, a lot of things. I think at a point it was very automatic, but these days it's like it depends on how well you work with your supervisor. Then I also know that some people change supervisors from master, they go to PhD. If you think you don't like, you don't want to work with that supervisor anymore, you can always switch. But it's difficult. It's easier to stay with the same supervisor all through. So if you enter for masters, there's every likelihood you continue to PhD. There's you have a high chance of going all the way if you get into Japan for MSc.
Okay.
Yes.
Lorena is asking again, how easy is it to get scholarship for taught courses?
In Japan, I don't think there's anything like taught courses. It's an MSc program, and they have, of course, you definitely have project. You take courses, and then you write a final project. Yeah, something like that. So, well, they don't call it taught courses like that. The person is asking for funding, right, for that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's MEXT scholarship can take care of that. If you have the degree and if you are qualified, you can easily get MEXT scholarship. Then you can also sponsor yourself.
Hmm.
But of course, you have to be sure. You have to be sure you can really afford. It's not
Which one?
interestingly, education in Japan. I think is not as expensive as maybe UK or US. I think because of the currency. So I don't think it's that expensive. So of course, you can be self-funded for sure. Another interesting thing is if the language, if you can master the language very fast, you can easily most in fact in most Japanese universities, most of the Chinese people you find are they are there they are there they're funding themselves working part-time jobs because they can easily handle the language well. But for most
Okay.
if you can get the language, you should be very fine. So you can work part-time and school and you'll be fine. But of course, going initially, you should be sure of your financial backing. You should be very sure of that so that you won't be stranded.
Yes, you don't want to be stranded.
Mhm.
So
Anyway, yes.
Vicky Ajibade asks, if you do you have to write a proposal before being assigned a supervisor?
If you're talking about MEXT, they're actually different kinds of MEXT. The one I went for was the embassy recommendation MEXT scholarship. So in that case, you apply to the embassy and the embassy selects. And in the process, once you pass the primary screening, there are two stages. Once you pass the primary screening, then you'll be told to go and look for supervisors uh, in Japan. So then you begin to write supervisors in Japan. And so that's the embassy recommendation. There's another one that is the university-based MEX scholarship, and there are several programs like that. So depending on the nature of the program, you may just need to do most of the times you need at least to have spoken with a supervisor who is willing to take you for you to be able to apply in the first place. So if that requires, of course, most times, especially if you're going for a PhD, to require you writing a PhD proposal for sure. If you're going for masters, it may not be that important.
That's right.
Mhm.
Just on the fun side, Kikelomo is asking, can you speak Japanese now?
Yes, I not as well as I speak English. Chotodake, just a little.
That's nice.
Yes.
Another person is asking, what courses does MEXT cover?
Next covers everything. Any course you're interested in. But I think they have from what I've seen from the Nigerian embassy, for instance, they seem to have this flair for people who are already teaching in a university and are into the sciences. Because there's this general feeling that if you're studying economics, you can easily study it in Nigeria. If you're studying fine art or something like
Okay,
that,
arts
I
and
think
humanities.
yeah, I think it's not the I think it may not be the best way to go about it, but there's just this general flair for STEM. I think so. The science people tend to have better chances at it. But generally, for instance, when you get to Japan, you see people coming from other countries, and I don't think I've seen any Nigerian MEXT scholar that is not a science person.
Science.
But rather, I've
Okay.
seen people studying Japanese law, uh, linguistics, all kinds of things,
Okay.
even from other
Yeah,
African
so
countries.
that covers this question about does it cover life sciences and biotechnology courses? Of course,
It
it
covers everything.
does.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So Oluwatobi Ezekiel has a very interesting question.
Okay.
How did you find emailing? I believe it's asking how did you find requesting recommendations from your referees? I mean, all your applications, doing this over and over and over again.
Yes.
So how did
Interestingly,
you find it?
I think it was easy for me because, I told you I was graduate assistant, and after masters I became assistant lecturer. So I'm in the system, so I always have access to my HOD. Then I also have people that were very close. Some of them will even okay. Let me not say that. Like there are people I have very close relationship with them that it was basically not an issue. And again, for people like this, I discovered that some people, somebody who has never chatted with you before, they just come on Facebook and they're like, "Sir, I need a recommendation letter." That's a bad way to go. I'll give you a right, but not everybody will attend to you. So I think
Oh,
while in school, you should build a very good
good
relationship. These days,
relationship. Yes.
these days you have very young people who you can easily relate with, and who also understand. Okay, there's no way you walk up to me or Dr. Macaulay that if you're a footer person or if we know you at least that we will turn you down. No, but one thing is people don't know how to build relationships. So we are not friends before, and then you have a need, and then you just want to say people even I don't even like the word. They will tell you, "I want to use you
Use
as
you.
one of my referees." So I tell people, "Don't use me. I'll be your referee. Don't use me."
So
So
that's a very great tip there. That's a
yes,
very great tip to
look
build
for
relationships.
yes, look for upwardly mobile lecturers, even right from your undergraduate. Just be close to them. Let them know your aspirations. Let them know the kind of things you want to do and everything. So I don't think since I think for the past 2 years, I don't think a week goes by that I don't write application for at least an average of 2 people weekly.
Wow. Wow.
So
That's amazing.
relationships. Hmm.
Yeah, relationships matter. So that I believe that answers this question. Any tips to
Hmm.
reaching out to recommenders? Start building that relationship from
Yes,
100 level,
before
200
you need
level.
them. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Hmm.
And it's simple. You can start by sending happy new month message, happy birthday
Simple,
messages.
oh,
This
very
works.
simple.
It works a whole
Yes.
lot.
Hmm.
Another person is asking, do you have some links to share with us on MEXT scholarship?
Links on MEXT scholarship. Well, the ready if you're going through the embassy, you can just look Google Embassy of Japan in Nigeria. So whenever the form is out, whenever it's open, you always get the information there. And beware of fraudsters. There are people who are defrauding people. But I can always share the link up. There's a platform where I can do that later. The actual Japanese embassy website in Japan. Then, of course, if you follow, there are many fora that you can belong to where you get all these links. Japanese scholarships are open around April, so you can begin to apply from April, and then it ends something like around June or so. But of course, because of COVID this year, it was a bit distorted because usually the resumption time in Japan is April 1st or October 1st, depending on the situation. So those are sure resumption times. And graduation times are, if you enter in April, your graduation time will most likely be March of maybe 2 years, after 2 years, or March after 3 years, depending on whether you're into MSc or PhD. If you enter October, you're graduating September to last, I think it's usually the last week or something of March or September, depending on when you start.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
This has been very inspiring and interesting, honestly. And I don't even know, I've lost track of time. We have less than three
Wow.
minutes. We have less than 3 minutes. So I'll just take this last question from Lorena. She asked, what is your advice between choosing a thought master's or research master's?
Research masters any day. Thought masters can limit you in some ways. Now, if you listen to the chat by Dr. Macaulay and Dr. Kelechi, I think a few days back on the Chijam's platform, I think Dr. Macaulay was talking about the issue he had in Hong Kong because probably he did a thought masters or something like that. I'm not very sure if I got that right. So, but if you do a research masters, it's very easy to transition to a PhD program. But if you do thought masters, you may have, of course, you may still be able to go straight, but some people some universities may be very keen on the kind of MSc you did. So if you have the opportunity to choose a thought masters. It's just like choosing between doing an MBA or doing an MSc in management. If you do an MBA, it may be difficult for you to go for a PhD. You may be able to, but most times the only thing you can do after an MBA is a DBA, which is not a PhD per se. But if you want to do a PhD, it's better you do MSc management instead of MBA, something like that.
Okay, wow. So honestly, Dr. Emmanuel, my motivation bar, it's so full. It's at the top. Thank
Thank
you
you so much
so
for being such
much.
an exceptional moderator. It's such a nice time being
Thank
here.
you. Really,
Yes.
thank you. And it has been an amazing and awesome conversation with you. And I'm sure every participant that has been watching this, they've gained a whole lot, a whole lot. We're all inspired. And really, if you're listening to this, every tip you get from the summit, every information you get, please make good use of it. Make good use of it. We're setting you on the path. We're setting you on the path for greatness. We're setting you on the path to compete globally. So I wish you all the best. And I want to say a very, very big thank you to Dr. Emmanuel,
Thank you
Dr.
so much in
Casey,
Japanese.
Dr.
Domo arigato
Milton,
gozaimasu.
Dr. Milton, Chijams, and everybody that has been planning this event. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much, everybody.
So,
Thank you. Chijams, thank you. Dr. Macaulay, thank you.
so Dr. Emmanuel, I don't know, you might have some last words for our young scholars. Where I'm one of them. I'm one of them.
Well, I think I just want to reiterate when you fall down, pick something up. When you fail, learn from it and get better.
Powerful. I'm taking that with me. I'm writing that down. I'm adding it to my mantra. Thank you so much,
Thanks a
Doctor.
lot. You've done a very great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. The next session is by 6 o'clock, and please be on time. It's going to be another amazing one, and I'm sure you will not want to miss it. So join us again by 6 o'clock. Bye.